hello. I am Keita Williams, founder and chief strategist of Success Bully. Welcome to the 5 Days of Focus. This is our live show. So this is special content that we are pulling together for our challenge, for our 5 Days of Focus challenge for everyone that is part of the group. So a little bit about Success Bully. Success Bully is an elite accountability practice, so we consider ourselves professional butt kickers. And our area of expertise is all around goal setting and accountability. We have a methodology called Your 90-Day Way that breaks your goals down into 90-day increments to help you map out a strategy that works around your life. And then we have an accountability model to help you achieve your goals. So that's what we do at Success Bully. And now in the 5 Days of Focus, this is a special pop-up challenge that we've been doing. We do them every few weeks, but we really want to hone in on the what now scenario. So the world has changed. If you haven't noticed, the world's changed. The way we live, connect, work, just our day-to-day tasks have been completely disrupted. And so with that, we have to really rethink our goals, how we're going to achieve things. I know there are some folks who've developed whole new ideas in isolation. There are other folks that are just kind of coasting along. And then I have some people that have fallen completely out of rhythm because they're not in their day-to-day routine. And so with that, the 5 Days of Focus is to really help you jumpstart and get back on track. So that kicks off on August 3rd. So you'll see more about it. We'll be teaching live for 5 straight days with some bonus content because we're full of surprises. Make sure that you connect with your concierge. So either you have Maggie Rogers, waving your hand. Maggie Rogers is one of our concierges. And then Monica Washington is another one of our concierges. So depending on where your first name falls in the alphabet, I believe Monica has A through M and Maggie has N through Z. They are your personal concierges to guide you through the process. And we will make sure that you get whatever you need so that you are ready for the 5 Days of Focus. Be on the lookout. We are having another referral contest, so make sure that you are paying attention so that you can win prizes. Who doesn't love stuff? I'm excited. And so now I would love to welcome Leslie Pierson to our show. I'm going to read a little bit of her background. She's an inventor, serial entrepreneur, and proud partner of Shark Tank's Lori Greiner. I never say her name right. Leslie Pierson has taken her passion for solving everyday problems through great design and turned it into a thriving company. She initially launched GoodHangups through a successful Kickstarter campaign and then won a contest on the Today Show, which was called Today's Next Big Thing. So you got to find footage on that. As part of the win, Leslie went over and made history on QVC by selling out GoodHangups even before the airing. She made history. She then set her sight on Shark Tank and successfully swam with the sharks into 3 offers with Damon John, Kevin O'Leary, and Lori. Since the airing in 2016, Leslie has grown the product exposure on such shows as The View, Good Morning America, and GoodHangups can be found at Bed Bath & Beyond, Amazon, and Walmart, among other places. And even since then, Leslie doesn't just stop there. She doesn't stop there. You can have it all, like Leslie. You can have it all. So she partnered with her son, Alex, who previously sold $1 million on Amazon with his Kickstarter, which is called Taco versus Burrito. It's a card game. It's really awesome. If you haven't seen Taco versus Burrito, check it out. So in partnership with Alex, Leslie launched Bold Made, and that was during Women's History Month of this year. So that was March 2020. Bold Made is actually a remake of the classic card game Old Maid, but without the sexism and ageism. So I am going to turn it over to Leslie. Leslie, hello, welcome. Thank you for coming.
I love it. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Absolutely. It's such a pleasure to have you. So I really want to talk a little bit about your background. So sure. As a serial entrepreneur, how did you initially get your start in your first business? What pushed you out there? What were you doing pre-entrepreneurship and what made you make the choice?
I'm a crafty person by nature. I think a lot of people are. You're making things at home just for friends or family or as a little hobby. And I eventually got bored of being a consultant and wanted to make things, and I like making things. So it started from just a want of owning the whole thing and being able to set my schedule, do my own thing. And then the thing that I liked doing was making things. So it started there.
And what inspired you to start GoodHangups particularly?
Well, GoodHangups came out of, I was making a different product that wasn't doing very well anymore.
Which happens.
It happens all the time.
You don't always hit it out of the
often,
ballpark. You don't always hit it out of the ballpark.
well, to be honest, I hit it out of the ballpark for 5 years, and then it went slowly down, and I lost my passion for it. So that was totally fine. Sometimes it's time to move on. So GoodHangups came out of an idea that I had when my son was little about wanting to be able to display his artwork on the wall. And I had a little more of a fire in me because I had that experience where for 5 years it grew, my previous business grew perfectly. It went really well. And then once I took my foot off the gas, I got a lot of competitors. People did it better than I did. And so I kind of hit the ground running with GoodHangups because I was afraid I'd do that again.
Okay. So you took what you learned from your previous
Yes.
experience and ultimately applied it to GoodHangups.
Exactly.
And I think that that's an interesting thing that I want to share, that like whether you are a CEO of your own company or you are an employee thinking about side hustling or you just want to do something different, you can reinvent yourself at any time.
It's true.
You can reinvent
I always
yourself.
think of it like I think of it as a ladder, and every time you learn a new thing or try something, you move up the ladder, and maybe you try something completely different and you move sideways, but you never go back down the ladder. You're just always climbing up.
I think of it like a ladder. Could somebody quote that? We're gonna that's a pull quote. that when we do our recap, think of it like a ladder. Well, I think that's true, because like sometimes we get so married to being one thing. Or doing one thing really well that, we don't give ourselves the grace and space to try new things or to go, that's not working for me. And it's okay to go, that's not working for me. I want to do something else.
Yeah. And usually you learned a lot from that one thing that makes the next thing more compelling.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think what I've loved about Success Bully is that what it was when we met almost 3 years ago.
I know. Over so crazy.
3 years. What it was over 3 years ago and what it is currently and what we aspire for it to be. It's incredible. It's incredible. Totally. What I thought in my little mind, what I thought it would be. And then we would try something and I'm like, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
Like we didn't quit the brand. We just did something else within the brand.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I know that there's quite a bit of fascination around Kickstarters. What are some of your best practices, having done multiple Kickstarters for GoodHangups, working on it with Alex for Taco versus Burrito, and then for Bold Made? What are some of your what's your top three? If you've never done a Kickstarter, here are 3 things you must do.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, the 3, if I was going to pick them, first, look and see if what you want to do on Kickstarter is usually successful on Kickstarter. So some things don't work with Kickstarter, some things do. So if you're going to try something new, like fundraising for a movie, which still works on Kickstarter, it just doesn't raise the same amount of money as a game or a different thing, unless you're famous. Famous people, let's take them out because they can do anything.
They're an anomaly,
right?
They write their own checks, so I don't know why.
Exactly.
Kickstarter, but anyway.
But they do it. That's true. And then I would say, I like to say, find your spirit Kickstarter. So find a Kickstarter, 2 or 3 that are in your space that you think did really, really well. And you like the way their layout is, you like how they communicated their brand, and use them as your inspiration to do the Kickstarter. And then if I only get 3 options, the third one would be whatever you think your goal should be, cut it in half because you're going to be way more stressed unless you cannot do the project unless you get a certain dollar number. If you're going to do the project anyway, cut it as low as you can go. So you'll just take the stress off of you.
Right.
And I do think once you've been funded, you sell more after you've been funded because people know they're going to get the item.
Right. So like, I also think that one of the things, like having worked on Kickstarters in my corporate career and kind of working with you, Leslie's also a client,
yes.
working with you through the Kickstarter process.
Happy client.
A very happy client. Give yourself enough time.
Yes.
I think that Kickstarters are, well, any crowdfunding is way more work than you think it's going to be.
Way more. It's a full-time job for the time you're doing it and the lead up to it. It is a lot of work.
So you got to give yourself enough time to be successful. So like giving yourself that almost 90 days if you can, so that you're
That's a good concept. 90 days is perfect.
Okay, thank you. That's kind of our thing.
Yeah, because I mean, really, when we started dusting off Bold Made, it was about a 90-day process for us, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like it. Yeah,
we did it.
Yeah, we did.
But like giving yourself enough time to, you have all these other things going on in your life or in your business, like adding a Kickstarter, like you said, it is a full-time job. So making sure that you have the bandwidth and that you have a support team and all of the piece, give yourself enough time. I think that there's no need to burn the midnight oil, stress yourself out, make your hair fall out, and develop an ulcer to launch a Kickstarter, right?
Because launching is just the beginning.
Yeah, that's the first part. That launching the Kickstarter is part one. There is all the communication that goes on during it, and then there is the delivery after. So Kickstarter is the jumping off point. It is an ongoing project. So thank you so much for that. So then what was so you've done several Kickstarters. And I know we have quite a bit of fascination around Shark Tank because it is sexy for entrepreneurs.
Sure. Right? Oh, God, I love the show. So I would ask too. I
love the cliffhangers of it all.
Oh, I do too.
I love the good, bad, and all of the things.
Me too.
Like, what were your experiences on Shark Tank, and how did that experience shape how you've grown your business since?
So, well, for GoodHangups, it really was about doing everything I could for the idea, because I knew the idea was a good idea, and I worried I wouldn't get a patent. I have gotten patents, but at the time I didn't know I would get patents, and I worried I would get knocked off. And I didn't want my idea just to be taken and then always say, well, I was the one who came up with that, and then nobody believes me. But so really, for me, Shark Tank was the easiest way to get the word out. Like the biggest reach I could get to people to let people know about the product. Because I'd done a Kickstarter, and then we had so much luck on the Today Show contest you mentioned. And so I knew the product was good and that it had a lot of uses, and I was constantly finding more and more people in different backgrounds who were using it. So for me, Shark Tank I'd watched the show since the beginning. I'd seen every episode. So it was in the back of my head all the time. I don't know if anyone else who watches this hears that and says like, yeah, I watch the show all the time. Well, you're already doing the research. You've thought about it. And then as my idea formed, I was like, it kind of got formed with Shark Tank in mind.
Okay.
And then post Shark Tank, it was just about, the ability to get that exposure and get your foot in the door was so much easier to get, into Walmart or Bed Bath or wherever. It's just a lot easier to get in that door. It doesn't mean that it's as easy as I thought it would be after. Right. There's still a lot of work.
Like it wasn't like it's still not that overnight success thing.
No,
it's still like that.
No.
We got some exposure, but now we still have a lot of work to do.
Exactly. That's our biggest joke. We have a Facebook group of only people who've been on Shark Tank before. So we all can talk honestly about the experience. And we always joke about how most people think we're instant billionaires and that like life is perfect and we don't have to struggle. But it's still a business. It doesn't matter if you get a little bit more advantage in getting some opportunities, you still have to do all the work.
Oh yeah. There, and that's one of the things that I like to reiterate about business, but just goals in general. There's no such thing as a silver bullet. There is
No,
no
there's
such
not.
thing. There may be some steps you can skip. You might get fast tracked,
Yeah.
but that's usually after you've done a lot of dang on work.
Oh yeah.
And you're ready for
Absolutely.
that magical opportunity. So whether
Agreed.
it's, working on a personal goal or building your business, there are very few shortcuts.
Very few. Very
There is
few.
no HOV lane. It's still
So
a lot
true.
of work, and you have to invest in it. I will say that, even for us, there have been these magical moments, but we were ready
Yeah.
for them.
For sure. For
For the
sure.
serendipitous moments. So,
Agreed.
how did you prepare for Shark Tank? Because I know there's a lot of strategy involved in it. So what were some
Yeah.
of the ways that you prepped for it?
Well, I am an over preparer by nature, and
Okay.
I wouldn't have done this show if I wasn't 100% sure I was going to have a good experience, because I've seen a number of people, not have great experiences. So I took it very seriously. So I found I made a list of all the questions that had ever been asked on Shark Tank,
I love it.
put them on flashcards, and I would drink wine and ask myself the question. And then I'd have to shorten the question because I'm a babbler by nature. So,
Okay.
I had to look at okay, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses and what is going to get me the best result in this scenario? It's not the same as the Today Show. It's different. What do I do? And really it was about making sure that I could be edited well and I could make short answers, which is not easy for me.
No, it's not easy for anyone. Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
I guess that's true. I just found it particularly hard for me.
well, like, it's interesting, but like, as previous to being a professional butt kicker, my background's in public
Yeah.
relations. And so,
Yeah.
like,
So
it's always, you got 3 message points, you got 3 things you need to say on any interview, but what's the fastest way to get there? How do you pivot the conversation? And so, like, we prep
Mhm.
for these scenarios. So I'm not surprised that, like,
Yeah.
there is a certain, you just don't show up.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a
Although
lot of
some
behind the
people
scenes.
do often, that's what I've heard from people who usually have had a bad experience, or well, I didn't know who I wanted as a shark, but when I went in, I was like, really? So I knew
Right.
exactly who I wanted. I went through every scenario of negotiation that could have come out, where I got the shark I wanted, I didn't get the shark I wanted, I got 2 sharks, I got, different things. There was one shark I didn't want, so I was trying to avoid that, and then I got the shark I wanted, so it was great. But in the end, and I also had a counter offer in my back pocket that I knew they couldn't say no to, so I was ready to go.
So you prepared 360 degrees.
Yeah, because you don't know. Sometimes also I'm now knowing a lot of people who've done it since, because I help people now prepare for it. It can go so many different ways. You may be at the end of the day, they just had somebody that was confrontational and they're not in the right
They're
zone.
people.
Yeah, they are people, and you
Mhm.
can't control it once it gets away from you. So you've got to be prepared for every scenario, in my mind.
I love it. But that's also like, that's a good mantra for business. You sometimes you
Yeah,
got to prepare for any meeting or
yeah.
any partnership opportunity. Like, be prepared for those.
Yes,
Practice. Even with,
practice.
I just had a wonderful call with Nisha. I hope she's watching. And she is a soon to be graduate of Bryn Mawr College. So we just had like a quick little
Oh,
check in. And so
wow.
she's
Daisy's at
interviewing.
Bryn Mawr.
Yeah. Oh, cool. And she's having she's stepping into that interviewing for her first corporate gig post college. And like, same thing
Ah.
with that. Prepare,
Oh,
practice.
yes.
Practice your interview questions. Have a friend do a mock interview with you. Think of the scenarios. And most of the big, she has a background in computer science. Most of the big tech firms, their interviewing process is on the internet.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So you
That's
can figure out if
right.
they use the STAR method or whatever and practice your answers that way. So there, again, there's no such
Completely.
thing as overnight success. We have to prepare for it. Oh, I love it. We're getting off track. Sorry, I got off track
I
there.
love it too. You're right. No, but you're right on.
So now pivoting to your latest adventure, we're pivoting. So
Pivoting.
let's talk about Bold Made. What inspired you to launch this card game? Oh, you have it in front of you. Go ahead. Yay! Quick
There is
plug. Bold
Prepare.
made.
Yeah, quick
Bold
look.
made.
Ooh, Bold Made. Bold Made really was, my son had been getting into making card games when he was very little. And then I had always been really annoyed by Old Maid. Like every time the game got brought up, I was going to give you a good 5 to 10 minute mantra on why Old Maid is terrible. Having a goal to not end up with the older lady without children or who's been deemed too old to marry. We should not be playing this game. Like, this is 2020.
Right.
So it really came out of a frustration and thinking, I don't want to just be the person who complains. I'd rather try to figure out how to make it better. And that was really Alex's suggestion, was like, make a better one. And I'm like, good idea. Okay. And then, so that's when I decided, instead of having the stereotype characters in traditional Old Maid, that we would go with amazing women from history. And that has been magical. Like, I thought it would be really interesting, right, to do and to make something different or whatever, but really getting to read about these amazing, bold women all the time is so inspiring. And it's like that unexpected gift I was getting on the regular now. Like, I learn all these things, I pay attention more, I get to it's just great.
So how long did you, when you initially had that spark where you would go on like your Old Maid rant, but when you went from idea to execution, what was the time frame between I have this great idea before you actually committed to seeing it through?
Let's see, I've hated the game for a long time, but probably in Alex's first 3 or 4 years of life, it came up a lot. And I had a different idea that was more like Rad Ant or something. Like, I was thinking of like just something that was like, let's give some respect to these amazing women who decide not to get married or have kids. Like, come on, like, and I have a good, anyway. So, and that really didn't go anywhere because I didn't know what to do with it. And Alex wasn't making card games at the time. But from the time I decided to do Bold Made, it was a percolator. I had wanted to do it for quite a while, probably the last 2 years, but it's maybe a little less than 2 years. But I had some other things going that I had to push forward on, and I had to put it on hold for a while. And it was torture because I wanted to get going on it a lot faster. And then then I realized, oh my gosh, it's a lot of work. But yeah, it's been great. But it probably, from the time I decided, yes, I'm doing it, it was less than 6 months. But like from the time that the idea percolated, probably a couple years.
Yeah. And that's the interesting thing. Like, I think that we call it our world domination notebook.
Yeah.
And the idea of like, we have like, it's the double-edged sword of being brilliant, that you are never running out of ideas. You're never running out of ideas. And sometimes it's when is it the best time to execute, And so like, it's that cross-sect of, okay, the market is ready.
Right.
For sure. The market, like if you had launched this 2 or 3 years ago, I don't know that the market would have been
not the same.
The market is totally different, right? So the market is right there with you. I think there's been a resurgence in card games, especially with like and interactive games with like Stranger Things, bringing Dungeons and Dragons back into the consumer consciousness, where it's no longer just nerds. Respect to Dungeon and Dragon players.
I was gonna say, I've got a lot of friends who never saw it go away.
It never went away for them. But yeah, like a few years ago, it might not have been the best time. So like you had the perfect cross sect of timing and space in your life to actually accomplish it. So
and the early idea of Rad Ant would have been, I wasn't going to do Bold Made after Rad Ant, and it wasn't a great concept. So percolating's okay. Yeah. That's the thing, is it could have still been okay, but it might not have been the same. I like to percolate a little.
And there's nothing wrong with the percolation, but I like how so how did you, like, once you were like, we're doing this, how did you manage, balancing GoodHangups, and then you're the president of Hot Taco, which is the holding company that produces Taco versus Burrito, and launch and the Kickstarter for Bold Made. So how did you keep the balance, but with all of that going on in your life?
Well, so I think everybody has to do things differently. Some people would have hired people to do the things for Good Hangups. I decided to pivot with Good Hangups and focus on the areas where we made the most money. That was the least effort for me. Right now I'm in this phase of like least effort, most impact.
Maximum reward.
Yeah, exactly. So I had already done that kind of pivot to where it kind of ran itself. And I knew that I wouldn't be pushing forward on any big new initiatives while I did this other thing, because you can't do everything. And I didn't have the passion there anymore. So I wanted to go to where it was most interesting. And so, so it pretty much, I just reallocated time from an idea that used to take a little time and regular work to where the idea was the bigger thing and then the regular work was smaller.
And so I think that speaks to that you have to create the balance.
Yeah.
You have to create the balance. And when you want to do something, sometimes you have to get some stuff off your plate.
Yeah.
You know, like we got to do plus and minuses. And I know like, some of the choices that I moved to Bellevue.
Yes.
To balance when I was working full time and scaling Success Bully, so that I would have a shorter commute, so that I could work in the morning, work on my business in the morning, go to the office, work the full day, run home, and not have that lose 2 hours every day in commuting, right? And so like there are those choices that you have to make, like where can I move some things, and I think that it must be really awesome to be able to make a choice on what's next, like really being able to decide, okay, well, I had fun with this.
Yeah.
Now it's time to do something. Like I want to continue it, but how do I make it work for me? And I can work on other projects. So like walk me through that process when you were like making the decision to kind of, I don't know, pivot Good Hangups so that it was more self-sustaining. And making the decision to take on this creative endeavor.
Right. Yeah. Mainly I had contemplated, I thought I would have to sell Good Hangups to because I'm not usually somebody who can balance as well. I tend to be all in on a thing. And I had looked into it, and for where I had gotten it and how I could sell it at the time, I needed to stay involved in it in some way for most of the corporations that wanted to buy it. And I did not want to work for someone else. So I had to figure out what the balance was to where I got the most reward without feeling the negative parts I didn't enjoy anymore about running the business. So it was really kind of getting rid of the stuff that, looking at all the things that I did and like what makes me the most money and the stuff that I enjoy and what can I get rid of. And so
I love
it's
the
hard.
prospect of stuff I like and money.
Yeah. I definitely wasn't keeping the stuff that I don't like. If I didn't like it and it brought money, I'd probably hire somebody, but I didn't find any of that stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I know that we've worked very closely during that transition.
It was all you. I have to say this though. I remember the day after the 4th of July, I went to FBOM, our female founders group here in Seattle, and Keita was there. There weren't that as many people because it was the day after 4th of July on a 4-day weekend.
I blew through town.
Yes, exactly. So there were very few. Usually it's quite a big group. It was much smaller. Keita was sitting there. I walked in and I sat down next to her. I was like, I need you, Keita, because I had gotten stuck to where I wasn't making those decisions, to where I wasn't going. I built all of the little things that were causing me not to figure out if I could sell the business and these kinds of different things into a much bigger issue and not executing. And I saw Keita, I was like, you are what I need. And she's just like, well, okay, hello.
Yeah, sure. And that's the beauty of business. Because we talked about it. We talked in passing, and then it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, you ready? I'm ready. Let's do it.
Exactly. No, it was perfect. It was exactly what I needed, because it helped me. The accountability piece had me have all those before I had this big bundle of stuff that said, this is why I'm not getting where I needed to get to so that I can move on to Bold Made. Because I did want to do Bold Made. You were like, well, if you want to do the other, you got to pick one for a little while. And I was like, oh, okay. But it was perfect. It was exactly what I needed to do. So I could go through those things to get to the right decision. So I felt comfortable with what I was going to do, which I would never have gotten there without you. I know I wouldn't have. We wouldn't have Bold Made. No way.
All the hearts, all the y'all, everyone, listen.
Yeah, it's true. Listen.
So then, I know that when the launch of Bold Made, smack in the middle of COVID.
Oh my God!
And so
Wasn't
smack in
that
the middle of the
crazy?
COVID.
You were such a trooper too. I doubled down on my work with you during that time. I was like, we meet all the time.
Yeah,
going crazy.
So how did you kind of how did COVID-19 impact how you were approaching it? Because like
it was hard. Yeah, it was hard because I have trouble with self-promotion. It feels very, I don't know. It takes a lot for me to do something like a Kickstarter where it feels like I'm saying, hey, look at my project.
Like, look
hey,
at
back
me,
this.
look at me.
Yeah. And then add a pandemic in there, and all of a sudden you realize people have way bigger issues going on. And, also no one wants to write about anything but pandemic stuff. So it felt like I was constantly in this gross feeling of having to promote but not promote. Luckily, the response was amazing and people were really looking for something. And I knew people would tell me that, like, people want something positive to look for, during this crazy time, but it just didn't feel right to say, hey, here, so I was so happy when it was over because, and it went great. I mean, way bigger than any other Kickstarter we've ever done. But it also, I could sleep and rest and know I couldn't promote anymore. No, there wasn't any other to do I could do. And then I had more work, but it was different.
It's doable. But like, that's really interesting, that delicate balance of moving a project forward, but also being aware of what's going on in the world, right?
Exactly.
And that people are experiencing profound impact on their lives,
exactly.
and still are. I think we're going to be feeling this for another
Absolutely.
18 to 24 months. I know what it did to our business and that sort of thing. But but
I remember we would talk a lot about how I felt like everything I did was tone deaf. It just sounded like you're dealing with life and death, really substantial issues. And I'm like, check out my game,
like card game.
It just, it was hard.
But that's also that, like, I think it's really interesting, like, especially now, the way that I kind of think of things, because like we were in the middle of our first 5 days of focus. And it was during the George Floyd, and we were like all of the protesting and the Blackout Tuesday and all of the things that were happening, and I felt like, now it's not people. We have bigger things as a country to deal with than my stuff. My little stuff, and we opted not to. We changed some of the language on things, and we kind of pulled back our full sprint. But like, it didn't make sense.
It still was helpful.
Especially,
I was going to say it's still helpful and still great, and probably even more impactful during a time of great distraction of other things going on. When you have a concept, if you could keep that even going at a small level while you contemplate all of the bigger issues going on and all of that, you taught me that. Like, if I could just keep a little thing going while I'm doing something bigger, then it pops up. It's so much easier. It's not restarting. It's so much easier.
So much easier to maintain momentum than start and stop. And like, at that point, like, completely stopping, I always feel like you're working 90 days into the future, whether it's your business or a personal goal. You are literally working 90 days into your future. So the stuff you're doing right now is not really going to pop until September, October, right? And so to stop just based on what is happening right this second, you're actually impacting yourself in the fall, not necessarily
It's true.
right this second. So,
well, and it also leads to that there's never a perfect time to start. Now,
No.
there are better times, but like it was Women's History Month. Waiting
That
a
was
month didn't make sense. I
perfect.
still wouldn't be launched if I had waited.
Yeah, if we
It
had
would
waited
never
out the
be.
COVID, we would have
Yeah.
been still waiting, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, congratulations on Bold Made.
Thank
Congratulations
you.
on breaking. Oh, we forgot to mention we've been talking about your 3-hour workday. What inspired that?
Oh, yeah. I want to get to that. This is my aspirational goal because I don't want to always just be a slave to the idea and make everything into bigger work and try to find. I turned 50. I want to figure out what other things I'm interested in. So that work is only part of my world and that I have the other interests, maybe doing art stuff. My health is really like I put it off to the side and worked. And now I need to prioritize it. And so it's really just about not letting as I dump these things off and make things simpler, not adding more to it just to make it more complex, which is my MO.
Fill your plate back up.
Yeah, I do. It's like it's a buffet all the time. I'm just filling it up over and over again. Oh, I haven't had that.
Yeah, let me try that. Let me just stay busy. Well, congratulations on that aspiration. And I know we are working diligently to get you there.
Yes.
So to land the plane, what's the advice you have for this community of goal getters? What's the thing you want them to take home?
Well, first, you've already made a great decision by even signing up for this because Kita's got magic going on. And, you knew you needed the focus. That's probably why you came into this, and as long as you're taking those active steps, I think what Kita brings for me is that accountability that ensures I keep taking the steps versus it being pure will. Like my will is not strong enough to not be derailed. But Kita will keep me on track, which is awesome. And so I would say it's, a lot about what Kita talks about. I'm sure everything that you guys are doing within the 5 days of focus will serve you as you branch out from there. But, just making sure you're always taking that step and you can show progress. Because like Kita said, starting and stopping is a lot harder. Starting back up again later. But if you can keep a little going all the time, and then when you're feeling that inspiration, take it, run with it. Do a little more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Leslie. We have a question from the floor from the amazing Brittany Wheeler.
Hello,
hey, Brittany. Brittany is also one of my former clients or ongoing clients. Brittany and I circle in and out. We circle in and out.
Yeah.
So Brittany has a new venture that she's starting. So her question is, at what point should a product creator apply for a U.S. patent? That's part one. And then she has a follow-up question. So I'll give you that.
Sure. Okay. So to start with, if you have a product that is unique and you feel could be patentable, you can file for a provisional patent. There are, I'll give you a link that you can share.
Okay.
To this website that I've used before, but you can write your own provisional patent, and that provisional patent will give you a year to decide if you want to file for the full patent. I think it's like under $200 to file it. You can write it yourself. This site will walk you through how to write it. I've used it, even though I know what the site says, I still pay for it whenever I have a new one and I filed multiple provisional patents for products I never file a patent on. It gives you a year to wait. So I say if it's novel and you think someone could take your idea, patent it before you share it publicly in any large amount. If you've already shared it, it's not too late. Go ahead and write up your provisional patent and submit it. And then you're covered for a year. If you get your patent, it'll go back to the day you filed that provisional patent. So if in a year you file the full patent, once you get that patent, you're covered from the day you filed the provisional.
Awesome. Okay.
And I'd be happy to chat if you want to talk.
Okay, I'll cut. Brittany, stay tuned. Okay, so Brittany's follow-up question. I love me some Brittany. Prior to creating a product sample, did you file the patent prior to creating the product sample?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Is that what you're asking, Brittany? Okay.
I assume that's the question because you worry that if you ask for a sample, they'll take your idea. right? Like you're
Mhm.
worried that you're going to share it. And I have actually had this happen before where I shared something and someone took my idea, which was no good. And I didn't file a provisional patent or anything. So I would do it before. I would. But if you have already, it's never too early. They would have to bring something to market to actually compete with you to where you would be in trouble there. But I would say do it before if you can. Again, you could spend an afternoon and write this up and submit it. It's not it doesn't have to be everything. You can write it yourself. I'm a terrible writer. Keita knows I hate writing, and I can write these.
So there you have it, Brittany. Go ahead and file that provisional patent. Boom. Done. Take an
Boom.
afternoon and get her done. All
Yeah,
right. So thank you so much, Leslie. We appreciate your time. Thank you
of
for being
course.
so generous with your time and answering our questions from the floor. If there are
Anytime.
any other questions for Leslie, please, please, please send them over. We'll
Yeah,
try to get some expertise from Leslie. I know Leslie has office hours. I didn't want to
I
promote
do.
your office hours,
Yes, on
but
Fridays.
that is one
I wouldn't.
way.
Yes.
Leslie is passionate about supporting other entrepreneurs and especially those side hustlers and folks that are trying to weigh out ideas and shark tanking and kickstarting
Oh
and all that
yeah,
stuff.
for
So
sure.
Leslie has Friday afternoon uh, um, office
Office
hours
hours. I'll
that
give them to
that
you, and you can share them in your group.
yeah, we'll share in the group. But yeah, so if you have follow-up questions, there's that. So thank you for your time. Thank you for just being oh so magical, and thank you for being one of my favorite
Thank
clients.
you. Thank you for going to F-bomb on the day
Oh,
after
the
4th of
day after the
July.
4th of
Thank
July, because I
goodness. My
happened
life
to
is
be in
better.
town. So I do
Ah,
want to invite all of our viewers. We are doing 10-minute connection calls over the next couple of weeks. We really want to make sure that we're customizing content in the group as well as our upcoming challenge for you. So please reach out to your concierge. So that's either Maggie or Monica to get your 10-minute connection call with me, because I want to get to know as many of you as possible and really make sure that we're serving you at the highest level. So once again, I am Keita Williams, founder and chief strategist of Success Bully. Let's get after it. Thank you all so much. Thank you for tuning in. I hope we were able to answer all of your questions. All right. Bye. Hold on, hold on.
bye.
How do I do the things with the things? Okay, we're gonna end. We stop the live stream.
So
We